Hey everyone. So, have you ever wondered what's really humming along behind the scenes of all the apps you use every day? Well, it's all about data. So, today, we're going to dive deep into two of the biggest players in the AWS database world, RDS and DynamoDB. We're going to help you figure out which one is the perfect foundation for your next big idea.
Think about it this way. Your app's data is literally its foundation. If you pick the wrong one, the whole thing can get real shaky real fast. A bad database choice can mean sluggish performance, huge headaches when you try to scale, and yeah, probably a lot of late nights staring at code.
Thankfully, we don't really have to worry about a lot of the nitty-gritty anymore because of something called a managed database. This is where a cloud provider, like AWS, handles all the heavy lifting. We're talking infrastructure, backups, patching, all that stuff. It frees you up to focus on what actually matters, building an awesome application.
So, how do you choose the right foundation?
Well, let's start with a true classic, Amazon RDS. If your data is the kind that's nice and tidy, super organized, and fits perfectly into tables with rows and columns, then RDS is going to be your best friend.
So, RDS, it stands for Relational Database Service, and it pretty much does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a fully managed service that lets you run one of those familiar SQL databases, but without you ever having to worry about all that tedious admin work in the background.
And here's the beautiful part. RDS speaks your language. It supports all these major database engines that you see here. That means your team can just hit the ground running with the tools they already know and love. There's no need to learn a whole new system.
I mean, just think about it for a second. All that time you and your team would normally spend on tedious but, super critical stuff like maintenance and patching, RDS just handles it. That lets your team focus on what they're actually good at, building amazing new features for your users.
But, okay, what happens if something goes wrong, like really wrong? That's where this concept of a multi-AZ deployment comes in. As you can see here, your main or primary database is running in what's called an availability zone. Just think of that as a single physical data center.
But here's where the magic happens. RDS is secretly keeping a perfect up-to-the-second copy of your database in a completely different location, a second availability zone. If that first data center goes down for any reason, boom, RDS instantly and automatically switches everything over to the backup. Your users, they won't even notice a thing.
And this illustrates another really powerful feature, read replicas. Let's say your app has tons of users who are just looking at information, like browsing products or reading articles. That's what we'd call a read-heavy workload. Well, you can send all of that traffic to a separate copy of your database, a read replica. This keeps your main database free and clear to handle the important writes, like new orders or user signups. Okay, so RDS is amazing for structured data, but what if your data is a little more wild, a little less predictable? That is where a DynamoDB comes into the picture. If RDS is like a perfectly organized library, then DynamoDB is like a sprawling, ever-expanding universe of information. See, DynamoDB is a NoSQL database. That basically means it was built from the ground up for two things, incredible speed and massive scale. This is the rocket fuel for those apps that might just go viral overnight and need to handle a huge flood of new users without even breaking a sweat. Forget about those rigid tables we talked about. DynamoDB uses a super flexible model. So as you can see in this little example of a user profile, every single item can have its own unique structure. It's absolutely perfect for things where everyone's information might be just a little bit different. And here's the best part, right? DynamoDB does all of this stuff automatically. It scales up or down on demand, it delivers lightning-fast performance, and you only pay for exactly what you use. It's kind of like having a whole team of elite database experts on call 24/7, ready for absolutely anything. This unique mix of features makes it the go-to choice for applications that need instant responses, no matter the scale. We're talking about things like real-time analytics, gaming leaderboards, and those recommendation engines you see everywhere. Basically, anywhere you need crazy speed and flexibility without any limits. All right, so we've met our two main contenders. Now it's time for the main event, RDS versus DynamoDB. Let's really see how they stack up when we put them head-to-head.
This table really lays it all out. The data models are obviously different, but let's look at scaling. RDS scales up vertically. That's kind of like adding more floors to a skyscraper. You have to plan for it and build it. DynamoDB scales out horizontally, and it does it automatically. That's more like a city that just instantly builds new roads the moment traffic starts to build up. It's that difference that lets DynamoDB promise that millisecond performance at pretty much any scale.
So, after all that, how do you actually make the call for your project? Well, it really just comes down to understanding the nature of your data and what your application really needs to do. So, which one should you pick? Look, it's not about which one is better. It's about which one is the right tool for your specific job. If you're building a classic app with a well-defined structure, or maybe migrating an existing one, RDS is your trusty, reliable companion. But if you're building something that needs to handle massive scale and unpredictable data, DynamoDB is going to be your fearless guide into that new territory. You know, both RDS and DynamoDB are absolutely incredible tools, but they're really just the beginning. As our world just gets more and more data-driven, the databases of the future will have to be even smarter, even faster, and way more flexible. So it leaves you with a question, right? What kind of amazing applications will those future databases make possible? That's a question for all of us to answer.